Hey people, what's up? Hart here. Super excited. First video I've done since hitting 1,000 subscribers, which is amazing. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who has supported the channel, either by subscribing, liking, leaving comments on the videos. I really do appreciate it. And I will continue to put out production and beat making videos. So today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a track that I've already made, and it's kind of more of like an ambient electronic style lo-fi beat. So definitely lean more into like the synths and ambient guitar rather than the classic jazzy piano, horns, stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and play a snippet of it so you can hear what it sounds like. Then we'll hop into Ableton and I will break it down for you. So here's what the project file looks like. I do have a lot of different tracks going on, but there's really not that many different elements, so I'll break down everything that I did. So I'll kind of start and go through from how I started from the beginning. So of course, set the BPM. I did this one at 72. And the first thing I did was I found this pad, and I'll show you the original that I started with. I saved it down here so I could show you guys. Basically, I found this loop on Splice. Just a really nice kind of spacey synth pad. And so what I did was I actually just chopped out that first chord and time stretched it here in Ableton to be 2 bars long. And then took it down by 1 semitone. And then I duplicated that a second time, took it down to -6. And then you'll see here that I actually came into the clip and changed the transposition and made it glide up to hit 1 more chord right at the end there. And that was a really cool way to kind of make it my own, but also make it sound like it's part of the original. So processing for that is pretty simple. I just have a simple bandpass here, cutting out some of these really low lows that I don't need and some of the highs. I have just Ableton stock compressor catching some of these peaks so it's not spiking. I'm using RC20 here to give it a little bit of distortion. Just makes it a little bit grittier. And then I have Shaper Box here, and I'm actually only using this for side chaining. And I have this set to be side chained to my kick. And this is actually a really cool feature. I've never used Shaper Box to side chain before now. But you can actually set what frequencies it's ducking when it's side chained. So you can actually not even hear any pumping. But if I take this up so it's ducking the entire signal, now you can hear it. So it's really only ducking the lows, which is the main section where the kick and that synth are fighting anyway. So this actually worked really well. And then of course just some Valhalla vintage for reverb. So the next thing I did was come into Arcade and grabbed this extra perks. It's just this magic shaker. And what I usually do with Arcade is just route it out to audio, so it's a lot easier to work with. And the thing here that's really most important to note about this is you can see how far off the grid this is. And this was kind of a conscious decision that I made because that beginning loop, that synth loop, it really glides in, and that means that it's not going to hit right on the beat. And so I wanted something that was going to feel more in time with that synth loop. So I made sure that I pushed this off the beat. And the rest of the drums, it's super important for the groove that the rest of the drums are following this as well. I even came over here, you can open this section, this little D here, and this is a delay, and you can see that I have like added extra delay to some of these to make them a little bit later. So that shaker, and then like I said, the kick, there's a really simple snare. Just kind of just like a wood hit. And I just have some extra percussion in here. Which kind of sounds like a tennis ball being hit, and then a little tambourine hit here. And then those are all grouped together in a bus with just some EQ, some glue compression, and a little bit of drum bus turned way down. So the next thing I added was a bass line. And this is a pretty simple bass. I'm using the electric bass open preset from Ableton. And then I've got this EQ on here. I'm actually using a brick wall, which I don't usually use, but I was having some pretty bad issues with the synth pad, the kick, and this all kind of clashing down in that area. I have the knock clipper on here just for a little bit of extra saturation, some compression on the peaks, and then again that shaper box to sidechain it to the kick. And you can see this is just a really simple bass pattern, but I'm kind of slotting it in between the kicks. So the next thing I did was added some kind of ambient guitar parts. And all I've done was just kind of double track these different parts and slightly pan them left and right. And it really is a nice, easy way. I think I talked about this in my last video on Sleepy Lo-Fi Beats. To give your track a little bit more depth and width is to record the guitar and just slightly pan them left and right. So yeah, I just have those little guitar slides, and I have so many different tracks, like I said, so I can pan them. But also I wanted them to run into each other just a little bit because I do have a pretty heavy amount of reverb, just to kind of give it that spacious feel. The only part that I did differently, I did this kind of palm muted section during the bridge. And this part I kept fairly dry. I don't have a reverb on here. And so that's kind of the bridge part to kind of differentiate between the rest. And then I have this one little guitar section that leads back into the main chorus at the end. And a handy little trick here, I don't usually use a pick when I'm doing this kind of more ambient style, but I decided to use one this time. I don't know why. But what I did was I actually came in here. I broke these into different clips, so I actually just did Control-E to cut out the different transients and actually put a little fade at the beginning of the transient, and that actually makes it a little less harsh. Only other thing before moving on from that section is this bass. I did record one note of this bass, the MIDI bass, into audio, and then just automated that clip, just kind of like the pad I did, but I just came into the clip here to the transposition and just took it way down so it sounds like kind of an organic sounding bass slide. So the next thing I added was this really simple kind of piano melody. This is actually 3 different instruments that I've layered together. So the first thing I started with was this una corda, just for some of that top end. And then I've layered in this electric piano type sound from Sway. And originally that's all I had, was I just had these 2 layered together. And when I was playing it with the rest of the track, it wasn't cutting through enough. So what I did was I actually opened Serum, and I'm not even using any of the oscillators, I'm just using the noise. So I grabbed this glass lid just to give it a little bit of attack. This makes it cut through so much better. And then the processing for this, I basically have some saturation to give it some drive. I've got some different EQs on these. So this one I'm boosting some of the mids. This one I'm boosting some of those highs. I've got some compression here just to cut the peaks as usual. And then I've got Portal on here just to kind of give it some spacey delay. And then OTT just a little bit to bring out some of those mids a little bit more. So the last thing I did was kind of made some transition effects to add to the final beat when I arranged it. So I made this kind of, it almost sounds like a string texture. But what I did to make this was I actually opened up Analog Lab and doesn't want to work for me right now, but basically I think it's the bubbles preset from the sound effects, and by itself it sounds like this. Band passed it, put Portal on there to give it that kind of granulated texture, and then some extra reverb to kind of space it out a little bit. And then of course these really simple just backwards hi-hats to kind of bridge between some of the sections. And that's pretty much how I made this one. So if you enjoyed, please remember to hit that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe if you're not, I really do appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.